This video will discuss the problem of omniscience and experiential knowledge. There are two broad kinds of knowledge, intellectual knowledge and experiential knowledge. Intellectual knowledge is what is known in the abstract to be true. For example, an individual may know that a hexagon has 6 sides, or that the bones of the toes are called phalanges. Experiential knowledge is the knowledge of direct sensory input, such as seeing, hearing, or feeling. If you drop an anvil on your little toe, you may surmise through your intellectual knowledge that it is likely that an object of such density landing on that digit would cause a compound fracture of the phalanges of the little toe. But it is more likely that your thought process will be entirely focused on the experiential knowledge of feeling the pain from that toe. One early objection to pantheism, which is the belief that the universe is God, and is a component of PanDeism, is the concept that God would feel whatever manner of suffering is inflicted by men on their fellows, their beasts of burden, and their hunting quarry. As Augustine of Hippo, commonly known as Saint Augustine, declares, who cannot see what impious and irreligious consequences follow, such as that whatever one may trample, he must trample a part of God, and in slaying any living creature, a part of God must be slaughtered. Augustine laments, what more unhappy belief can be entertained than, that a part of God is whipped, when a boy is whipped. However, Augustine was also among the philosophers, who believed God to be all-knowing in the absolute sense of knowing even our own thoughts and feelings better than we ourselves knew them. For a God to be truly all-knowing, it must be superior in both its intellectual and its experiential knowledge. That is, when a boy is whipped, an all-knowing God must experience that pain even more thoroughly than the boy who is whipped. If this were not the case, then the whipped boy would have a knowledge of the whipping superior even to God's knowledge. Another objection raised by Augustine is his belief that God cannot sin. Augustine continues, who, unless he is quite mad, could bear the thought that parts of God can become lascivious, iniquitous, impious, and altogether damnable. In brief, Augustine wonders, why is God angry at those who do not worship him, since these offenders are parts of himself? Again, Augustine's conception cannot square with an omniscient God, whose experience of sin must be even greater than that of the presumptive sinner. Either God is both the sinner and the sin, or God is not God at all, by any omniscience definition. Augustine is right to point out that it makes no sense for God to be angry with sinners, if God is in the sin itself. But this does not somehow limit God's presence, it simply disproves the notion that there could exist an omniscient God that is at the same time separate from supposed sins. Hence, the very idea of sin as condemned by God is rendered a logical nullity. A final point is the belief in the existence of punishment in an afterlife, especially when such punishment is represented as eternal torture. Because an omniscient God would have an even greater experience of that torture than its victim, a God that permitted a thing such as a hell to exist, would be imposing on itself infinite and eternal torture. This would be the hallmark of an insane being. We cannot logically suppose that any being having omniscience or even mere superiority of experiential knowledge would either deem actions to be sinful, or punish them with torture. Hence, the pandeistic model is the logical option.